Howdy everyone, my name is Callie Henly, and for my Module 4 project, I will be discussing youth engagement in the community. So in this PowerPoint, we'll cover my interest in youth community engagement, as well as why it is a valuable topic for all of us as youth program leaders and developers. We'll discuss what actually is community engagement, the value of youth community involvement in terms of both learning and teaching. We'll talk about a few theoretical foundations for the idea, some successful implementation strategies of community involvement in youth programs, and then I'll provide a couple of quick additional resources for everyone's use as, again, those youth leaders and program developers. So in terms of interest, this is such an important topic to me concerning youth development because of really my past experiences as a youth in that leadership development phase. Some of my best experiences and learning opportunities were community engagement opportunities, such as serving as the Rotary Club Youth Ambassador and leading our Interact Club to participate in local events and things of that nature. I think it is extremely valuable for youth to have those opportunities to be involved in the community in whatever way that may be. In our readings, we have covered youth-adult partnerships and co-leading organizations between youth and adults. And in community engagement offers the opportunity to do that at such an early age. And I think it's so important that youth learn how to work with other adults and just generally work with other people in a large-scale project like many of these community involvement opportunities would be. So youth being involved in the community not only allows them to learn to work with other people that may be of a different age, but also will open doors for future opportunities and resources. I know that many doors were open for me just through being involved in the community through my youth leadership organizations. So Hastings, Barrett, Barbuto, and Bell found in their study regarding youth involvement in the community that after serving in those opportunities for those youth involvement programs, the youth gained ownership, responsibility, empowerment, and confidence. And those are all very important skill sets for youth to learn at an early age. The reasons why youth should be involved in community engagement is really endless. There are so many reasons, and my interest in this topic is also very vast because there are so many opportunities for that involvement and so many valuable ways that it impacts both the community and the youth, in my opinion. So what is youth community engagement? Some people might say that's a really silly question, but I think it's important to define because it could be interpreted so differently among different people. And I really appreciated this quote that I found because it encompasses so much and could relate to many of those different interpretations. So in engaging youth in community decision making, the Annie E. Casey Foundation and Center for Study of Social Policy said that youth engagement empowers young people to have a voice in decisions that affect them. Youth learn about their communities and how to create better places for themselves and others to live. They develop research, leadership, community organizing, and decision-making skills. Some different ways that youth organizations might be involved in the community could be, for example, the student council volunteering to help serve meals at the Chamber of Commerce banquet, or the Interact Club helping to plan and organize a fundraising event with the Rotary Club, or even PALS working with the elementary school to implement a tutoring program. So those are all types of community involvement opportunities that I was actually a part of in high school, and each one of them had a very significant impact on me as a leader, and each one provided me with resources to better various skill sets, from confidence to responsibility, to, just like I mentioned before, working with adults when I was still considered an adolescent. So those are only a few examples of what community engagement could be. But as I've mentioned previously, the opportunities for it are just endless. So, value in the process. In Chapter 3 of Giving Voice to the Leader Within, Gillen, Johnson, and Sinkin discuss quality service learning projects and what those should involve. Those service learning projects are the type of community engagement opportunities that programs should be looking to reach. They suggest that a quality project should include experience-based learning for youth, where the youth get to complete some task or series of tasks that helps them grow their skill set. It should have a direct impact on the community, which could mean helping organize a fundraiser that could put in a disabilities accessible playground area in their community, for example. And then finally, it should measure if students met their learning goals. So it should be clear in the end if the students accomplished what they were hoping to accomplish, and if they really utilized their learned leadership background for the betterment of the project. So if they actually utilized the leadership development and education that they had from your organization before they went and did this service project. So in terms of theoretical foundations and origins, the theory that youth being involved in the community helps in the leadership development process is not a new idea. Youth have been volunteering and working with adults in hopes to learn from those adults for years and years and years. We've already covered how many positive outcomes there are to youth involvement, and we haven't even talked about all of them because, like I said before, the opportunity is endless. But the first theory I'd like to discuss was one of our readings for one of our modules, and it was developing a paradigm model of youth leadership development and community engagement, a grounded theory. So here the authors studied and discussed youth involvement as the community in the context of the real world. They determined that youth have to be asked to participate because if you do that rather than letting or hoping youth will voluntarily sign up, they will feel needed and vital to the success of the project. They'll feel like you need them there and you really want them specifically there. So they also found specific steps to follow to ensure success of whatever project it may be and success of the young leaders involved. So success for the community and success for the leadership development that you hope will be achieved. Next, they found that there were factors that would affect the overall success of said project. So, for example, the ability or inability to communicate ideas, because communication is key in everything in life, but particularly in one of these projects where youth are most likely going to be working with older adults in the community. They then found that there were several positive outcomes that could come out of those service learning projects, both for the individuals as well as the community as a whole, like perception and attitude change, and ability to capitalize on new leadership potential. In that graph on the far right was actually the model that they came up with after their study was complete. And I think it's a very useful model for us to use as an example when determining how to really implement these kind of programs into our own organizations and into those relationships that we have with youth that we are hoping to develop into young leaders. So the second theoretical foundation I wanted to discuss was an article, Youth Community Engagement, A Recipe for Success. Arnold Dolink and Wells in this study discussed how the 4-H program provides a model for successful community engagement. I personally feel very connected to this one. That's why I included it in my foundations and origins. And I feel so connected because of my current job at Texas 4-H, but also because of my past experiences in 4-H as one of those youth leaders who had the opportunity to be so involved in the community because I was a member of 4-H or I was an officer for my county council. That really opened a lot of doors for me. And so I think 4-H does a great job of really being a great example of how this community involvement model really works. So in this article, they discuss different literature regarding youth development as a whole and youth-adult partnerships and much more. And then at the end, they discuss how to tie all of that together in a successful youth engagement opportunity in the community model. And they do that by using 4-H as a basis for that example. So they said that the goal of positive youth development programs is to encourage and facilitate the growth of functionally valued behaviors, which include competence, character, connection, confidence, and caring, which we've already read in this class to be known as the 5 C's. So they also went on to say that the ultimate outcome of the 5 C's is a positive contribution to one's community, increasing through adolescence, and then becoming a valued aspect of one's adult life. So in terms of organization implementation strategies, first let me say that to get the most out of youth engagement in the community, I don't think those adolescents should just find a service project and go forth on their own. I think that they need to be guided along, which is where our role comes in as program leaders and as youth developers. So first, we should determine what that pressing need is in both our community as well as our program in terms of what leadership skills the students really need that real-world experience with to gain those skills. So what experiences can we provide for them that will help them grow those skills that maybe they're lacking? We shouldn't just find a service project that sounds great unless it aligns with our mission of our organization. We want to make sure that everything we're doing is aligning to one central purpose. So then, I think we should utilize our connections and community resources to find the best opportunity for our students to be involved with. Again, I think we should keep searching for those community involvements that best align with our mission and really utilize the resources that we each have in our communities and even our surrounding communities, and then determine what best fits our specific youth. Next, we need to individually ask the youth to be involved. I don't think we should expect these youth to find their own projects and then expect them to have the drive to succeed and learn from these projects without our guidance. And if we do expect that of them and they do succeed in finding their own community involvements and really learn from them, really have that drive, then are they really benefiting from our developmental programs? They may be past the stage of what we're trying to help them gain in terms of leadership development if they're able to do that on their own. So I think that we need to help them find the project and then individually ask them to be involved. Also, if we ask them to participate instead of allowing open volunteering, those youth will feel more needed and therefore have a deeper connection to the project. They'll feel like they really have to be there and we want them there. And I've said this before, I think it's very important that these youth know that we think that they are vital to the success of this project, not only for themselves, but for the community as a whole. So when completing the project, effective communication is absolutely key between all parties involved. we discussed it before, communication is key in everything we do. The community members, the youth, the adult leaders, and any other stakeholders need to have open and clear communication for the best possible outcome. To utilize the opportunity as a learning experience, I think we should track the progress of our youth and have a record-keeping system to look back on at the end. Also to track as they're going along so that we can, again, offer them guidance and maybe make a few corrections here and there on how they are perhaps interacting with the adults they're working with. So to utilize we need to offer guidance at every step of the way to ensure the best possible learning experience is what that boils down to. All parties involved need to be mindful of resources when considering logistics. So, for example, the adults shouldn't have a planning meeting during school hours when the youth can't participate, and the youth should also understand that the adults involved may have some limitations as well. So we need to make sure that we're being mindful of everyone's needs and schedules. After the learning experience, it is important that the youth take time to reflect on their experience because that's where they'll really learn from that experience. That is where the tracking of that progress also comes into play that I talked about earlier. So based on various reading materials and theories I've studied, following these general guidelines, I believe would set up an organization for success in those community engagement activities. So I've already linked a few other resources that I pulled information from, but I personally really like graphics. I'm a very visual learner. So to put things into perspective from the way that I best learn and to begin wrapping up our discussion about youth leadership and the value of engagement in the community, I really found this graphic very interesting and useful. So obviously, because of what my topic was, I noticed first that youth, civic, and engagement are three of the biggest words, and that relates directly back to my topic. But what I really valued from this graphic the most is how it depicts that all of these different topics regarding youth leadership play together very integrally to help young leaders prosper. So while I obviously think community engagement is incredibly valuable, it's certainly not the only learning process youth need to fully develop into youth leaders. And I think we all very much understand and agree on that. But I think this is a good reminder for us that youth leadership is not just a 3-step process or just a list that you can check off of. So many different things come into play when concerning youth leadership development, and we have to remember how all of these things work together and fit together to really mold these young people into the leaders that we are striving and educating them to be. Successful youth engagement strategies provide young people with opportunities to gain work experience, acquire new skills, and to learn responsibility and accountability, all while contributing positively to their communities. From a political point of view, youth civic engagement is also critically important to preparing young people to be active citizens. That is a direct quote from the Maryland Governor's Office for Children webpage, which is also where this very interesting graphic came from. Again, I'm a very visual learner. That's why my additional resources are graphics. So on that webpage, they also suggest that youth engagement is a powerful way for child and family serving organizations to include the young people they serve in moving their work forward. Youth engagement offers the expertise and partnership of young people, helping adults fully understand what it is like to grow up in a rapidly changing world while navigating the various systems and policies impacting the lives of youth each day. So going back to, it's valuable for the youth to learn from the adults, valuable for whatever community involvement is happening, whatever program gets started in the community, whatever that may be, and also valuable for the adults to learn from the youth and better understand the youth of today and how we can use those youth in our community strategies moving forward. So to recap what we've discussed today, overall, youth engagement in the community is extremely valuable from many different standpoints, whether that value be for the youth involved or the community or even the adults involved. There will be exponential value in youth involvement in the community if the projects are conducted correctly, if we offer guidance to our youth that are being involved, if our adults in the community are open-minded and receptive, and if we, again, align our projects with our missions in our organizations. I think if we do these things and we have clear communication and we follow various steps that we've discussed already, that the opportunity for growth, learning, and value is just exponentially endless. So we've discussed that youth program developers and adult leaders play a vital role in the success of said projects, and I stand very firm on that. Again, I think we need to be there for guidance for these youth, and I think that we need to play a big role in these projects to ensure that the end product is success and value for all parties involved. I believe in the value of community engagement, obviously, but I also know that there are so many aspects to positive youth development that play together. Youth leadership development is a broad picture, and I don't think we need to try and frame it into a very small, concise picture. I think we need to take it case by case, know the literature, know the education that we have, but then be able to jump back in the real world and utilize those resources and affect whatever youth we're dealing with at the moment most effectively. Going back to that graphic that I showed earlier with all the different aspects of youth leadership development, again, I think it's so important to remember all of these things are playing together to reach one goal, and it's up to us to implement development practices that help these youth learn these skills as one cohesive piece rather than several pieces. And finally, here is my literature cited. Hope y'all enjoyed my presentation. Thanks for listening.